Hi there folks, welcome to RRTV's live coverage of the ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder, coming to you live tonight from Martinsville for round 5, and it's going to be a very, very action-packed night indeed. A little bit of history about Martinsville. Basically, it was set up in 1947 and it was a dirt track up until around about 1956, I think it was, and then they paved it. And it's quite interesting. If you look at the track, and we'll jump up to the blimp, you'll actually see two lines. Let's get this up on the blimp. Okay. So basically, the inside of the corners is paved in concrete and gives them extra grip, and the outside not so much. So 12-degree banking. It's a short track and not a lot of passing. But before we get into any more information about this short track, let's introduce you to my co-host tonight, and that's Steve. So welcome, Steve, to the RRTV Combox tonight. It's going to be an interesting race, mate. I think we're going to see a lot of carnage. So Steve should be with us very, very shortly. But basically, folks, as far as the racing goes tonight, it will be 125 laps around here, and they only get one fast repair, so I'm expecting this race is going to be absolutely brutal for a lot of these guys tonight. Expect a lot of rubbing. There'll be a lot of door-to-door racing tonight, and the guys are going to have to be very patient, because as far as overtaking goes around this circuit, there's not going to be a lot. We can expect some on the restarts, but once they get into that groove, the only real racing line around here is the concrete inside line, and if they get caught out on the outside up here, folks, the drivers are going to have to be very, very patient to get back on the gas, because there's not going to be as much grip up there. The other thing a lot of the drivers were talking about here, folks, is how they roll on and off the throttle. So we'll jump on here, and we'll see, you'll hear the driver here, and we're with Steve Clark here, just rolling off now. We're starting to roll back on the throttle to get that grip up. Comes into the next corner, rolls off the throttle, applies a bit of brake to get the turn in, and then he'll start gradually rolling it back off again to get back up the back straight. So, Steve, are you with us now, mate?
Yeah, Bernie, sorry about that. No sound on my microphone for some reason. We've sorted that out. Very happy to be here, although I've got to sit this one out, which is a bit of a shame, but I've got the best seat in the house sitting in the combox with you, Bernie, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome, isn't it? And I'm just having a look at where they are at the moment. They haven't started their quali yet, but they're going to be getting into it very shortly. As far as this circuit goes, Steve, I've just given the viewers a bit of an intro about it. It's a short track, and it was interesting. I was reading about the history of this, and it used to have two pit stops, like two pit bays, the front and the back straight, but they since changed that because they felt it was unfair for the people in the back pit road. But the interesting thing is now, I think Bristol's the only other circuit that has two pit bays.
Right, okay, I wasn't actually aware of that, Bernie, so you learn something every day, but it is a short track. It's only marginally longer than, I believe, Iowa, and I did a couple of exploratory laps here earlier, and I've got to tell you, a couple of those turns are very slippery.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because these cars are going to need to try to get them to point in, aren't they? And if they're a bit tight, it's going to make for a very long day for these guys tonight.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the green flag lengths that we got at Las Vegas the last week. I think it was, from memory, wasn't it one caution period behind the pace car?
Yeah, that was last week at Las Vegas, and of course they had a lot of runoff on the infield there. We saw a lot of action, but only one pace car I'm expecting we're going to have quite a few cautions tonight. We just had a look. James Foster's, he's done his flying laps now. 20.456 seconds puts him on provisional pole. His older brother, Edward Foster, he's done his 2 flying laps and he could only manage 6th position at the moment.
Yeah, Stephen Clark's actually just eclipsed that with a 20.313, so that sits him on provisional pole.
Yeah, and he's got one more lap to use here, and it looks like he's pretty happy. So he's provisional pole. Jake Maloney has just jumped up as he gets it all wrong, and just goes to show how quickly you can lose it if you gas it up too quick. But Jake Maloney, provisionally second, folks, on 20.336.
Yeah, it's going to be close and it's going to be tight. And it's definitely going to be a track where throttle control is going to be the most important thing they've got out there.
Yeah, it certainly is, and they're going to have to be patient, aren't they? I was saying that earlier in the intro segment that basically rolling on and off the throttle, they're going to get into a rhythm, but they're just going to have to be patient with that throttle, because we've seen the guys gas it up and they will lose it under acceleration. You can see now Sam Ross is out there in the number 22, and his first time was a 20.886. He has not improved on that. 22.437. Looks like he's seated around about 11th at the moment.
Yeah, I'm seeing that at 11th. Yeah, what I'm also looking at is I'm surprised at the size of the gaps between them in the top 5 or so. There's only 100th of a second first to second, but then it starts to creep bigger and bigger as you go down. So I'm a little bit surprised at that, but I think it's probably more to do with the guys being careful to make sure their laps count.
Yeah, well, they'd be putting in a banker lap and then trying to put in a fast lap after that, I'd say. But just saw Jake Blackhall out there. It's interesting, he's really using the brakes, because you can see the front of the nose of the car dip down. But he's only 5th fastest at the moment with a 20.566. And I'd say he's done his 2 flying laps. He's going for a 3rd. I'm not sure if it'll count. And 20.562, so provisionally 5th. Jason Martin, though, he has jumped to provisional pole last time with a 20.304, and he's still out there just testing the car.
Yeah, just looking through some of the times there, Bernie, a little bit surprised to see a couple of the guys a bit further down the list. They're not quite up the pointy end as I would have expected. Edward Foster all the way back in 11th now, and he's pushing as well. Sam Ross has now been pushed back to 14th after sitting a little further up. James Foster sitting on a 20.455 in 6th. So I've got a feeling it's going to be close, it's going to be tight once they get the race started, and it's going to be a case of who's got patience and who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly right, and I think we're going to see this field of 26 cars thin quite dramatically over the course of these 125 laps, because I reckon they're going to chew through that one fast repair very quickly. You can just see now Roger Clark out there. He's best 9th. He's qualified at the moment with a 20.582.
Well, that's not too bad. Unfortunately, it's a little bit off the pace right up the top 3 or so. But look, anything can happen. This is purely for starting position, and we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a long way to go, and I was speaking to Edward Foster before the race, and he was basically saying he expects the tyres to last about 30 to 40 laps around here before they go off. But he said, his words, there's going to be a lot of rubbing, there's going to be a lot of door handle action going on here, and the person, whoever they are that wins it, are going to know that they've put in one hell of a drive, and that was his words.
Oh yeah, whoever takes the podium or even the win tonight is going to something that they can really be happy with and proud of, because if they can get there at the end and keep it in one piece, it's certainly going to be no mean feat, I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly right. And we just saw Darren O'Brien out there. His first lap he did a 20.863, but he collected the wall on exit and dove straight back into the pits. So we may see him come out. Of course, 15 minutes quali. A lot of the guys have come out of the gate and run straight away, but there's a few others we're still waiting to see, as we now see Jason Fewens up into the wall there, and he's struggling a bit tonight. He's the best he can do is 22nd position, so he's going to have a lot of work ahead of him.
Well, I was just noticing that myself, down in 22nd, Jason Fewens, but I'm interested in a couple of the guys sitting behind him there, Bernie. Dave Douglas, who's, I believe, a previous round winner. I'm not sure, but I know he's won a couple of races with the ANZCAR guys, but Dave Douglas is normally a fairly quick runner and a consistent runner. He's actually sitting down untimed at this point.
Yeah, he's just starting his run now, and we've got the camera on him, and we'll see what he can do. And you're right, previous round winner, and I'm expecting him up the pointy end, but we'll see. The thing is, a short track racer, normally will be completely different to a long track racer, a good one. So we'll see what he's done. So a 10 best so far, 10th. He's on his second flying lap now. 20.682 seconds was his. We'll see if he can improve on that. It looks like, though, Steve, most of the drivers don't improve on that second lap.
No, it looks like they've banked the first lap, as you said earlier, just for a safety, so that they've got time there, and then they've just sort of pushed the limits a little bit to see what they can get away with, and with some of them that it's bitten them. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we've got Darren Bond in the 117 out now, and he's just starting his flying lap, and we'll see what he can do. His first lap was a 20.886, seeded 19th at the moment, and we'll see if he can improve on that and break this trend as he comes across now. 21.036, once again second lap slower, so once again Darren Bond, he's got a lot of work to do down there in 19th.
Yeah, it's not a good spot to be on a short track. If you're confident in the car and the way it's driving and the way you're handling it, a longer track you can probably come back from there, but he's going to have to rely on caution periods, I think, to try and make up some space. But who knows, he could end up picking up 10 spots and he could end up staying where he is. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, we've seen it before, haven't we? And we may be in for another bit of a treat here tonight, Steve, because Matt Stratford, last time he did not qualify. He started from the back of the field and he worked his way right up to the pointy end. Once again tonight, he's not out there qualifying. And Jason Ress also has not come out onto to the track yet. So not sure how much longer we've got here, but they'll want to come out soon, otherwise they're going to run out of time.
Yeah, I remember Matt starting behind me at Las Vegas, actually. He didn't bother to qualify and started behind me, basically because I muffed it in my qualifying and started towards the back of the field myself. And Jason, I'm surprised he hasn't registered a time, but it could be a little bit of strategy in that. With a short track, they could be wanting to start from the back and see what happens in the first couple of laps, take advantage of an incident or a caution period behind the pace car to move up the field.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, that's for sure, but I would have thought on a short track you'd want to be up as far as you can on the grid. But let's have a look at the grid, folks, because we're going to be racing here very shortly. So Jason Martin, he's going to start from pole position. His time, 20 seconds, .304. Right on the outside of him will be Stephen Clark in second. Jake Maloney, he'll start in the second row on the inside with Thomas Hinds outside of him, and it's great to see Thomas having a run there tonight. We normally see him in a V8 supercar, but tonight we'll see him in a truck. Jake Blackhall, he's going to start on the third row on the inside. He's got James Foster starting in 6th on the outside next to him. James Zeitz will start out as 7th. Scotty Harris, he'll start out of 8th tonight. Then we've got Roger Clark starting in 9th with Dave Douglas beside him. Out of 11th tonight will be Stephen Williams, and he will have Riley Curtis to keep him company. in 12th. In 13th, Matt Clowett and Shannon Mason in 14th. Edward Foster tonight, he's going to start out of 15th, and Daniel Stevens will start beside him. Darren O'Brien starts out of 17th. Ryan Kolstad, he's going to start out of 18th tonight. Out of 19th, we have Darren Bond. Then Sam Ross will start beside him in 20th. Norman Clark, a lot of work to do there, but don't write this guy off. He knows he's racing. He's starting in 21st tonight. 22nd, Bruce Ross. 23rd tonight, Craig Lawless, and he's got Jason Fewens next to him for company. Out of 25th, we have Matt Stratford, and of course Steve Hopper. You're not racing, but you're up here with me. You qualified 26. Well done. And Jason Ress rounds out our field of potentially 26 drivers.
Yeah, it's a good field, and funnily enough, it's probably where I would have qualified if I was racing tonight anyway.
It's going to be on, I tell you. But hope you like your action here, folks. It's can see now the field, and 26 trucks here tonight, folks, at Martinsville Speedway for round 5. We can see them now behind the pace car, and we're going to be racing very, very shortly.
Yeah, there's a couple of people I think I'll be keeping an eye on. Bernie, Edward Foster starting out of 15th, and of course Norman Clark starting out of 21st. Norman's, well, pretty much the magician, as you called him. The tyre king, knows exactly what to do with this car, how to handle it and how to drive it to save the tyres, and he's a fairly safe driver. So those couple of guys, keep an eye on them tonight to move through the field. Yeah,
and I'm expecting to see Norman come through. As you said, you know, we dubbed him the magician last time because of the way he went over half that race with that on one set of tyres, and was very competitive, and we'll see how he goes tonight here. But as we can see, the guys are getting ready. We're waiting under starters orders now. The pace car will be in, and we're going to be racing. We've got the 21 at the moment, and that's Jason Martin. Puts a foot down, goes on green, away we go. Lap 1 of 125 at Martinsville. Jason takes in the 29 at the moment on the inside, makes that move stick, and already the field is starting to spread out.
Yeah, they're starting to spread out a little bit, and we've got an incident already at turn 1.
So no yellow has come out as yet, so we'll continue racing. Do you have any news on what car that was?
Didn't actually catch a number. It was 2 cars that seemed to come together against the wall and then continue on. So that explains why the caution obviously hasn't come out. They didn't really stop on track as such. They came pretty close though.
Okay, so looking at your top 10 at the moment, folks, Jason Martin is leading. We've got Jake Maloney sitting behind him. Stephen Clark in the 96, running in 3rd. Jake Blackhall putting the pressure on now in 4th. 5th position is Thomas Hinds. He's getting dropped a little bit, but we'll see how he goes as this race continues. James Zeitz sitting in 6th, so we can see now from the bonnet cam of Jake. 7th, Scotty Harris. Then we've got James Foster in 8th, 9th, Roger Clark, and Matt Clowett. That rounds out your top 10. But there's a lot of action going back here with James Foster in the 14, and he's just managed to round up James Zeitz, who got caught on the high side.
Yeah, that's probably a bit of a close call, but I'm actually looking at the gap that Jason Martin's opening up, and I'm very surprised at how big that gap is. It's a visual gap.
Yeah, it's a couple of car lengths, isn't it? And he's got Jake Maloney behind him, and you can see Jake putting the accelerator down. He's spinning those tyres up, and that's not going to help him as this race goes on. I'm expecting Jake to suffer as far as tyre wear goes here.
You could be bang on there. It depends on how hard that he's going to push to close that gap up to Jason Martin.
And we just saw the 96 there. That was Stephen Clark. Put the gas down there and spun the tyres up. Jake Blackhall went to go on the outside of him. Now we've got Stephen Clark on the inside, Jake on the outside. What's Jake going to do here? Almost got the pass done, but he hasn't got enough room to take that low line. Once again, side by side they go, almost rubbing panels. And Stephen Clark, he's got the best line, of course, but now Jake is trying to get the advantage of that concrete, and now he's going to try going on the low side.
Yeah, a little bit hectic as they all try to sort themselves out, get a line, get used to who's around them and how they're going to race.
Yeah, and you can just see there, we're riding here with Jake Blackhall, and you can see Clark ahead of him as well as Jake here. They're just trying to get the power down and spinning those tyres up, and this is what we were saying in the pre-race show. The guys have to be patient on the way they roll on and off the throttle around here. Jake just went in the wall. We're under caution, folks. First caution of the night, and we'll try and work out what brought out the caution. It looks like there was an incident on the front straight here, Steve.
Yeah, it looks like it hit the back of which car is that? Number 074. He's got a bit of damage in the rear there. So whether somebody's collected him in one of the turns, I'm not really sure. I didn't quite catch that one.
Yeah, I'm just going back to the replay. He was carrying damage before, and he basically had Jason Martin trying to lap him, and we'll see if this is what brought it out, the pace car. No, I don't think that was what brought out the pace car.
Well, they're taking advantage to pit. There've been 9 or 10 laps on those tyres already, so taking the chance for some fresh rubber. And that'll bring some excitement back again. But he's decided to stay out. Is that Jason Ress, is it? Yeah,
well, Jason Ress is in, he's staying out, I think. I'm just trying to, what's he doing now? I think he's coming in to the pits now. Yes, he's brought that car into the pits now, but I think what brought out the pace car, as we see now, the 55-22 racing to the line there, but I think what brought out that pace car was the 088, and we'll go back and see if we can pick up this, but I have a feeling he's looped it.
Yeah, I noticed there's a few guys that didn't actually pit. I think Craig Lawless has stayed out in the Cat car, number 444.
I'm just having a look at this. Oh, yeah, he did loop it, and I tell you what, just about kept it off the inside wall there, but Ryan Kolstad, folks, brings out our first caution for the night.
Yeah, I think that a short track like this, and there's a few guys racing tonight that's their first time in the series, so there's a little bit of toe in the water stuff with who races against who and getting used to how each other drives, because I don't know how many times a lot of these guys have raced against each other or together, and it's going to be very interesting to see how quickly they get used to what's going on around them.
Yeah, well, if you're going to debut, you might as well debut at a short track like Martinsville. I couldn't think it could only get worse if it was Bristol, but at the moment, folks, looking at who's got control of this field, it's the number 96, Stephen Clark, and then we've got Scotty Harris, James Foster, James Zeitz, Edward Foster, Darren Bond, Craig Lawless. They all did not go to the pits, so they're at the pointy end now, but keep an eye on Jason Martin. He did come to the pits. He'll have fresh tyres, and we'll see how long these guys can keep the lead. So
yeah, we've got.
Sorry, mate. Go.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got Edward Foster there, right in the mix, right in the middle of it, as they go back under green, and the foot is down, and it's going to see how long we get before our next pace cut.
Yeah, we're going 3 wide up here. The 21 444 and Jake Maloney on the inside settle back into 2 wide, guys, and almost 3 wide once again as they start rounding up the 117, and that is Darren Bond. He's found himself on the high side here, and he's lost 1 position. Can he get back on the inside? It looks like he can, but Jake Blackhall, Craig Lawless, they are battling right behind him, and I can see Roger Clark sitting in 11th at the moment on the outside of Craig Lawless here.
Yep, and another yellow flag. The pace car will come out. I was just noticing myself how far back Roger is there, so it'll be interesting to see how long that he stays in that position.
Yeah, so I'll see if I can work out who brought out the pace car this time. It's really tricky on this track, Steve, because I can only pick up off tracks, and because there's no off tracks on this, it's going to be really difficult for me to pick up what's going on back there. But we'll do our best, folks, and see what we can work out. But hopefully this isn't the way the race is going to go tonight. Hopefully they can get back into a rhythm, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what actually brought that caution out, Bernie, but I haven't picked it up as yet.
See Ryan Kolstad at the moment taking service, and so is Craig Lawless. Looking at their pit stop time of 15.1 seconds. And I tell you what, under these pace cars, I reckon the pit crews are going to earn their money tonight, because this track's so hard to pass on. We're seeing a bit of passing, but I reckon if they can make places up, it could be on their pit strategy tonight.
Yeah, pretty much I think so. And what I'm noticing is the guys who didn't pit the last time, a few laps ago, they're the ones pitting now. So that'll actually probably give them another couple of laps on their tyres, and it'll be interesting to see how long before the next caution period and whether those guys will need to actually come back in again.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on. I'm having a look down here. Norman Clark, he was a lap down. He's just had the wave by, so he's back on the lead lap. The other car, Jason Fewens, he's waiting to get a wave by now, and I don't think he's going to get it in the 67, but he's down 2 laps already and struggling out there. But looking at how we're going under the pace car here, Stephen Clark stayed out, Edward Foster stayed out in the RRTV truck, and they will start 1 and 2. Jake Maloney, he has pitted, he's starting in 3rd, so he's had a good restart. Expect him to get to the pointy end very quickly. James Zeitz in the 19. He's going to start out of 4th. He also hasn't pitted here, Steve. And rounding out our top 5 is Jason Martin once again. And of course, Jason's coming into this, isn't he? After 2 back-to-back victories. The only other person that's won is Jake Blackhall, who had the first 2 back-to-back victories.
That's exactly right. The first 2 rounds went to Jake, and then 3 and 4 went, of course, to Jason. So it's a neck-and-neck battle at the front of the field there. But, of course, there's a couple of dark horses sitting in the top 5, and all they need to do is just finish consistently at the front, get a couple of podiums.
Yeah, and here we go once again, folks, under green. Steve Clark balked a little bit there and backed the field up a bit, but that's his prerogative. But check out Jake Maloney trying to get a nose on the inside of Stephen Clark. It doesn't work. Stephen's got a great run. And Jason Martin already up to 3rd, tucking in. Jake Blackhall, great move there. Edward Foster, he's found himself going back about 3 positions as he's getting swamped now. And Jake Blackhall's through. Now here comes Thomas Hines. Thomas on the inside takes that position from Edward Foster. I have a feeling Edward might be regretting not taking tyres here.
Yeah, there could be a bit of a problem for him because he's lost too many positions in such a tightly packed group on such a short track.
Yeah, and we're up here riding with Jason Martin, and we've got Jake Blackhall behind him. They're starting to get a bit of a gap. Thomas Hines doing a great job in 5th though. But here we go. What's Jake Maloney going to do? Is he going to have a look at Stephen Clark? Stephen hasn't pitted yet, but his tyres look a lot better, and we're under caution once again here at Martinsville. Yeah,
that didn't take very long. Somebody sneezed and out came the pace car.
Yeah, it was Matt Clowett was involved in this. We'll come back and have a look. He was on the outside, and see exactly what's happened here. The 22 got into the back of him and turned him around. So just getting a name for you there, folks. The 22, Sam Ross, got into the back, and Matt Clowett. The 66 also was turned into the wall and ran into the side of Matt Clowett, and the 66 is Daniel Stevens. So there you go.
Yeah, I noticed the 67 after the pace car came out. He got a little bit loose there on the front straight. And yeah, he's sort of sorting himself out as the other cars coming back past him. I believe one of the cars coming past him was Jason Martin. So.
Yeah, Jason Fewens, he also looped it, and he lost a lap by the looks of it because he was sitting across the track and he was having trouble getting it corrected. So he's also in trouble out there tonight. But Stephen Clark, that was a great restart from him, wasn't it? I thought he was going to get swamped, but he held his position on old tyres.
Well, he's not exactly new to the racing. I don't know. As far as I know, he's done a fair bit of NASCAR and trucks, just not in this series. So he obviously knows what he's doing. I've seen him race in other forms, and he certainly knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely showing it out there tonight. He's definitely doing a great job. And we'll give a shout out also to Riley Curtis. He's running a new livery tonight in his Riley Curtis Designs truck. And he said it had a little bit of blue on it, a little bit of yellow, and he's right, it does. But it doesn't look too bad.
I actually noticed that in the practice. I thought that looks a bit different. So used to seeing the scheme that he's run for the last few weeks, but he's obviously done an update, and it actually does look pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and just having a look here at Matt Clowett, he was sitting on the grass in there waiting for the field to go past him, and I thought he might have been having to get a tow, but he's resumed now and sitting in 23rd position. The 2 cars down laps now is Ryan Kolstad down 2 laps, Jason Fewen, he's now down 3 laps. He just lost one other lap, as I was saying, just as the yellow came out.
And sadly, we haven't seen Matt Stratford start and race tonight, so he obviously didn't make the grid.
Yeah, so 25 starters here, folks. We have all 25 going, but Matt Clowett, Ryan Kolstad, Jason Fewens, they are all off the lead lap. But here we go again, Steve. Lap 31 or 125, and once again Stephen Clark will have control of this field. He's got Jake Maloney on the outside though. Jason Fewens behind him, as well as Jake Blackhall on the outside. It's going to get interesting.
It's going to be very interesting, and they are under green. Edward Foster has moved up through the field, sitting about 3 rows, well, 3rd row back, so he's made big advances through this so far.
Yeah, and we're riding on the back here with Stephen Clark, and you can see here Jake Maloney is trying to get around. Stephen's planted it on the inside, and that's pretty much the fastest line here. Jake Maloney gets it spun up. All of a sudden Thomas Hinds is having a go, but here we go. Sorry, that was Jake Blackhall. Jake Maloney on the outside. What can he do? Jason Fewens, or Jason Martin, sorry, not sure where to go as these two stay too wide.
Yeah, you got Stephen the Sandman Clark on the outside of the track there, and Jake Maloney on his inside in 96, and we've got Jason Martin and Jake Blackhall keeping them honest, with 52 I think is Thomas Hinds coming up, a little bit of a gap back to him in 5th place. Yeah,
and it's definitely closing up here, but as you said, Stephen Clark doing an absolutely awesome job out the front here. Looking further back in 7th, we've got Roger Clark now. Oh, it is slid up and 3 wide now on the inside of Roger. We've got James Zeitz and Riley Curtis, or Shannon Mason, I think, is trying to effect that pass, but Roger's hanging on the outside, and we've got the 19 almost around, and that could have been another caution.
It came close, but thankfully it wasn't, so we're still under green, and the guys are racing. They seem to have their lines sorted out at the front of the field, and Edward Foster still sitting there in 6th place, following through on Thomas Hinds, who's got his eyes all over Jake Blackhall.
Yeah, Thomas is doing a great job, isn't he? But At the moment, we're looking at the back of Jake Maloney as Jason Martin is nose to tail with him there. He's trying to get on the inside. There's just no room. Now he's going to have a look on the outside, and that's not going to work. But look at this, too wide, my goodness, as Jake Maloney unseats Stephen Clark. Oh, Jake spins it up. This is going to help Sandman come back on him. But look at Jason Martin trying to get the inside overlap here, Steve. And we're under caution again.
I can see that Stephen Clark managed to get towards the front there, keep Jake Maloney out. But the positions are moving up and down a little bit on the thing. I believe that it's actually Stephen Clark in second and Jake Maloney in the lead. And then we've got Jason Martin, Jake Blackball, Thomas Hinz and Edward Foster. These are top six at the moment.
Oh, and we're just having a look at this replay as well. And the 66 got into the 19 and spun it. And who was that? The 161, I think it was. Scotty Harris had absolutely nowhere to go and pretty much just clipped the side of James Zeitz there. But yeah, so the 66, I think that was Daniel Stevens that turned him.
Well, we've got Stephen Clark in the pits now. Edward Foster, Jason Martin, Jake Blackall I can still see out on track. And car 4 has gotten the wave by. That's Matthew Clowett.
Okay, and interesting here, Edward Foster sitting in third, but he still has not pitted. So I'm not sure what strategy Edward's using tonight, but he's the only car now that has not come in.
Yeah, I think he's borrowed a page out of the Norman Clark playbook.
Yeah, I'd say so, but even the Magician hasn't stayed out. He's brought that car in twice, and yeah, in 23rd at the moment.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Edward hasn't pitted, if that's the case. I don't recall seeing him go into the pits. But at a track like this, the tyre wear must be fairly high. So, but if Edward's confident that the car's got the grip and he can stay out, then perhaps that'll play into his hands later on.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I spoke to him, he felt that the tyres would go for about 20 to 30 laps before they went off. We're up to lap 42 now, so obviously he's happy with his tyres, otherwise he would have dived in. But yeah, Edward Foster, the only car that has not pitted. But looking at your top 10, folks, as they stand now, we've got Jason Martin. He will have control of this field. Jake Blackall second, Edward Foster third. Fourth is his younger brother, James Foster. And then we have Daniel Stevens fifth, Sam Ross sixth, Dave Douglas. We said earlier, didn't we, Steve, to keep an eye on him. He's up to seventh. Darren O'Brien eighth, Craig Lawless ninth, and Steve Williams rounds out our top 10.
And backing up those, we've got Scotty Harris in 11th, Jake Maloney back to 12th, I believe, after a pit stop. Stephen Clark and Thomas Hinz after pit stops in 12th and 13th. Shannon Mason, who's putting in a good drive tonight, holding up at around 15th. Riley Curtis, 16th. Bruce Ross, 17th. Roger Clark still back in 18th, but we've got a long way to go. And Darren Bond, 19th. James Zeitz, 20th, and we're back under green, Bernie.
Yeah, there was contact further in the field there as a car got into the side of another one even before they got to the start-finish line, but they've sorted it out. But Jason Martin has bolted. Jake Blackall right behind him. Once again, it comes down to these two at the moment battling. Edward Foster, great job hanging on, but of course he wants to beat his younger brother, James Foster, who's starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, I'm just looking at James behind him there, and he had a big lunge, a big spurt of speed, and then pulled it back a little bit. He's keeping about one truck length between himself and Edward in front, and it's going to be interesting. I've got a feeling that the minute James spots a chance, he's going to put the move on.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's got good incentive there. He wants to beat his brother. But you can see now Dave Douglas back here. He's having a great battle with Sandman. Sandman on the inside. He's got Jake Maloney coming through with him. And they've both got past Dave Douglas, who's got caught on the high side here. Now we've got Sam Ross. He's also caught on the high side. Oh no, he's on the low side, sorry. And Darren O'Brien, oh, there's contact, and the 55 almost went around, but he managed to gather it up, and that's Shannon Mason.
Yeah, Shannon back in 11th position now. He's picked up a few spots since they went green.
Yeah, and the other one, Thomas Hinds, is also on the move up, but at the moment, Dave Douglas in 8th. He's a bit of the cork in the bottle here. He's got the 77, Darren O'Brien, on the low side, Sam Ross, and now we can also see Shannon Mason in the 55 making a move on Sam Ross. Looks like he's going to make it stick, and or is it? Oh, big contact. Who was that? Sandman.
Yeah, that was actually the Sandman getting into the side of Daniel Stevens, and Sandman went around. Daniel Stevens managed to not quite spin it. He managed to keep it a bit wobbly, but Sandman went around and he brought out the yellow flag.
Yeah, I saw Dave Douglas get into the side of him as well as we came around, and we're having a look at this replay now, and yeah, dived in, didn't he? Oh, he hit the grass and got up into the 66. Jake Maloney was lucky to get out of that, but look at Dave Douglas now. He keeps out of him, but oh my goodness, the 66 was very lucky he didn't get hit. And just having a look, the 98 was involved. Also, the poor 161, Scotty Harris. Oh man, he had to go to the high side once again to escape carnage.
Yeah, well, Daniel Stevens is now pitted after that incident. It's under caution, so whether he'll actually repair any damage, I don't know how much there was. I think it wasn't really a heavy contact, but yeah, Stephen Clark definitely got a bit out of shape. I don't think there'll be a lot of damage, so I wouldn't expect to see Daniel Stevens stay in the pits for very long. He'll grab tyres, he'll grab fuel, and he'll be back out there to battle it again.
Yeah, and he's coming out now, and we can just see the race to the end of pit road. He just came out behind Matt Clowett and Craig Lawless. So Daniel will be taking up 21st position, just ahead of the pace car. And that's the thing with this track, isn't it, Steve? It's a short track, of course, but it's so short that if these guys have to do any repairs, they're going to fall a lap.
That's bang on, actually, and it's happened to me and it's happened to everybody else. Short tracks, if you get heavy damage, then you could drop 2, 3, 4 laps. That's what I mean. Thankfully, there was no heavy damage on Daniel Stevens' car from what I could see from the impact. So hopefully that wouldn't have cost him very much time. And he's still got plenty of laps left to make up any spots if need be. But the low line here is so slippery because of the concrete rather than the bitumen on the high line, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that more guys are not favouring the high line.
Yeah, well, the thing was, the word that I heard was that the high line wasn't going to work, but we'll see how it goes as it rubbers in, I guess.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't done enough laps here to really form much of an opinion. I just felt that in certain instances it would have been a better way to go, but these guys have put in more practice than I have, and if they feel that the high line's not the way to go, then obviously that's why they're preferring to stay down low. It's just a little bit slipperier down there, and I think that's why we're seeing little instances like that from Stephen Clark, where he saw the chance to go through a gap and he was down low, put a wheel on the grass as he got a little bit loose, and out came the caution. So we'll see how we go from this point on.
Yeah, we've got Edward Foster on the outside of Jason Martin here. Jason puts the foot down and goes into turn 1. We've got James Foster almost into his brother there, Jake Maloney. He's pretty much going high as we look from the back of our race leader, Jason Martin here.
Jason Martin's actually putting a slight gap on Edward Foster, who's managed to get himself up to second place. And he's got his brother James right behind him. And here goes James. He's going to try all that he's thinking about.
Yeah, well, he can see Jason disappearing. And, of course, Edward's running on old tyres. He still has not taken service here. We're almost half distance. So he's definitely taking a page out of the Magician's rule book here, one could say. But he's pretty much, maybe he's thinking as long as he sticks on the low line, they can't get past him.
Well, it could be what it is, but yeah, he must be feeling those old tyres by now. And look, Jason Martin's opened up a really good gap, and we're under caution again, Bernie.
Yeah, Jake Maloney got turned around, and I think he's T-boned the 14. We're having a look at this once again, and just getting the number that ran into the back of him here. So we're just having a look at this, folks, and we'll pick up the action. So the 55 got into the back of Jake Maloney. Sandman was on the inside, and poor James Foster, he got clipped and he went around as well. So I'm just trying to get hold of James's car here. Yeah, he ended up on the high side. Oh, gee. He was trying to turn it around, and he actually ran into the 19 as he was trying to turn that car around.
Yes, Sandman was monstering the back of that 55 car, and in turn he was right up close to James Foster in the 14 car. And of course, number 62, I believe it is, which is Thomas Hinds. And he seemed to pay the price. No, it's number 29 actually, and he's into the back of him there, yeah.
Yeah, and it shows, doesn't it? It doesn't take much to unsettle these cars. The 55 gave him a bit of a rub there. Well, it was more like a kiss, and it was enough to upset Jake Maloney's truck there. And I feel sorry for James Foster, because he wouldn't have seen that coming.
No, I don't think he would have. And my apologies, folks. I think I was watching a slightly different replay to what Bernie was showing everybody, because I'd actually wound it back a bit further to see how it initially started before the incident, and so therefore I was probably a little bit out of sync with my description there. But yeah, either way, we're under caution for a couple of laps. I don't know whether too many guys have actually taken the chance to pit, because it hasn't been that long since the last one. Yeah,
so looking at Edward Foster, he's still staying out there. We're just about at the halfway mark now, folks. Well, we will be in about half a lap. We'll be hitting the 62.5 lap mark, and that's 50% of this journey done. And we'll see how this race unfolds. But it's been quite interesting up until now, Steve.
It has been, and I'm just looking at this group of cars at the front. When we go green, we've got Edward Foster alongside Jason Martin, with Stephen the Sandman Clark directly behind the 53 car of Edward Foster. Like, well, anything can happen here, and I've got a feeling a couple of those front cars are going to go pedal to the metal and maybe make a gap. Here we go.
Yeah, Jason Martin puts a foot down. Edward Foster goes with him. Here comes Sandman diving on the inside there, but Edward's got him covered at the moment. And let's have a look further back. Jake Blackhall also getting into the back of the 55, which is going backwards through the field. And the number, who was that? We're going to go yellow once again. I saw a car just off screen.
Yeah, didn't quite catch that one myself. I saw something happen in the backfield a little bit, but didn't catch who it was. Bernie, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at this replay. I have a feeling it might have been the number 4. No, it was number 22. I saw that going around. That was Sam Ross. Sam Ross it was. Yes.
Well, not the best of nights for Sam tonight. He's struggled to hold a couple of good positions, but a couple of little things in the field that have just really sort of held him back from making any real forward momentum.
Yeah, we can see a few of the guys. Jake Maloney, he has come into the pits to take service once again, but once again, Edward Foster is not coming in for service.
Yeah, I think he must have some sort of super solid rubber under that around those rims, and there can't possibly be air in those tyres.
Might be a bit of air in his head, but then again, he might come out as something no one else has tried and then snatch victory from here. But we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, though, the car's down from the lead lap is Jason Fewens. We saw him just get his wave by. He's 2 laps down. Poor Norman Clark, he's having a rough night tonight. He's 5 laps down from the lead, and our first retirement was Jason Ress, and he's got out of that car, and he's had enough.
Yeah, I think he might have just been a little bit tired with some of the damage and a couple of other things. He may have copped a lot of damage, and it was going to be a long stop, and with such a short track, he may have just decided that it was best just to put it away and take it back to the workshop and get it ready for next week.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's going to be an interesting race. I thought it was going to be a lot more brutal than what it is, to tell you the truth. We've only got 2 cars off the lead lap, 1 car retired, and the rest, the 22, are still out there. We're getting a lot of cautions, but I was expecting that coming to Martinsville. Yeah,
no, I expected the same thing with a short track. I'm still having nightmares about Iowa, so we won't go there. But no, what I am happy to see is that we've got 22 cars still on the lead lap. It's just fantastic at this point of the race on a short track.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we're having a look from the grandstand cam here, and you can see just how short and tight this track is. And I'll tell you what, the top of this grandstand, the fans here, they get an absolute great view of this track, don't they?
It's a fantastic view, and I've actually just had a little bit of a conversation with the captain of the blimp. And as we go green, I'm viewing at them from above the cars, and there goes Jason Martin, Edward Foster, and Stephen the Sandman Clark. Thomas Hins up to 4th, and he was making a big dash. He'll probably catch them towards the end of this straight, Bernie.
Yeah, you can see Sandman now on the inside of Edward here, trying to make that move, and he does. You can just see how much drive he's got compared to Edward, who's on old tyres. And here comes Thomas Hins. He's defending from Jake Blackhall though, and one of the cars started to spin up the tyres, but that's pretty much situation normal around here, isn't it?
It can be, yep. What really stops a lot of the caution periods at a track like this is whether you can catch it in time.
Yeah. We'll have a look at this telemetry, folks. They're pretty much sitting in 4th gear around here, Steve, and just once again you can hear Edward rolling off the throttle mid-corner. He'll start rolling on now, and by now he'll have it flat out.
Well, with Jason Martin still leading, he's got a pretty decent gap back to Stephen Clark, who's managed to get past Edward Foster. And there's James Foster, who's on the inside line. And he's got Edward just coming up alongside him now, who's sitting in 3rd.
Yeah, and Edward's not going to like that much, because while he's on the high line, he's vulnerable now to Hins, who's having a look on the inside. He's covering him. It's interesting, Edward's now going for a middle line here, and that seems to be working better than the low line at the moment. And you can see the 66 now going down a lap as Edward tries to get past him.
Well, there he is. I've got James Foster listed as being in 19th, so he's actually out of order from where he is in his track position.
Yeah, he's 2 laps down at the moment.
Yeah, he's obviously had a reason to have a longer pit stop, or a pit stop under green, and that's obviously cost him here in such a short track. And he's trying to make his way up through the field, but it's a tough battle.
Oh, it certainly is, and he was really strong, wasn't he, up until he got involved in that incident with Jake Maloney, and that's put him down.
Yeah, sorry, Bertie, almost interrupted you there. I was just going to say I was really enjoying the battle between the 2 brothers, Edward and James Foster, because it doesn't matter how badly you want to beat the guy in front of you. If it's your brother, it becomes life or death.
Exactly right. Especially that we're coming up to Christmas dinner in the next couple of months. He needs something over his older brother.
Oh, I believe that when this series is over, there'll be plenty of vigorous conversation around the dinner table.
Yeah, I'd say you're right there. At the moment, though, Edward Foster's starting to go backwards. He's down to 5th now, but look at Jason Martin. He has done a runner, and he's 1.6 seconds ahead of Sandman here. James Foster, though, he's on the inside of Sandman, and he's decided he's got more pace, and he's just overtaken Sandman and sitting in front of him. Now he's trying to get out there to get a lap back.
Yeah, James obviously fighting hard to get that lap back, but he's got Jason Martin to catch and pass, and then if he can do that, then obviously he's going to be able to make his way around and get that, get at least a lap back. Stephen Clark, obviously informed by his spotter that James Foster was out of position and a lap down, so he didn't put up too much of a fight, knowing that he wasn't racing for position. And Jake Blackhall coming up on the back of Stephen Clark now, so there's a couple of good battles forming here. Thomas Hinge is still within view of the back of Jake Blackhall.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Thomas's drive tonight. He's having an awesome drive here, and yeah, he's doing well. He's dropping off a bit, but I was going to say, you know, that's the thing that a lot of road racing drivers would have to get used to in NASCAR or Speedway driving is if you're a lap down here, you know, you're going to try and get that lap back. Normally in road racing, the guys sort of say, well, stay out of our way, we're coming through, you're off the lead lap, but it's not the case in NASCAR, as we see now. Jake Blackhall doing a great move there, and Sandman moving up to 2nd. He's now going to try and chase down Jason Martin, and once again, Steve, we're back to this Martin and Blackhall battle, and it's playing out once again at Martinsville.
Yeah, Jake Blackhall a little bit loose in the rear end coming through that last turn, and Stephen Clark got very close to the back of him. Obviously Jake lost a little bit of momentum, but he's picked it up again, and he's got a 2 or 3 truck length gap on Stephen Clark, who's closed it up again. That's going to continue to happen, yo-yoing back and forward with that gap. Jack Blackhall's obviously got the pace because he keeps putting the gap on Stephen Clark.
Yeah, and he's now in heavy traffic here as they start lapping the 55, and that's Shannon Mason going down a lap ahead of them. Then we've got, well, we don't have Lawless, just trying to work out where they are on track. It's getting a bit mixed up out there, but let's jump back to 8s, because Roger Clark's down here, and he's having a battle with Matt Cloat at the moment, or Matt Cloat, I think we pronounce his name, for 7th and 8th position.
Yeah, we're starting to see now. We were lucky to have the 22 cars on the same lap, on the lead lap, but that's certainly starting to change now. There's another car. The 67 has gone down a lap as Jake Blackhall and Stephen Clark have both put a lap on.
Yeah, and they're starting to spread out up front here now, aren't they? And you can see James Foster. He's almost caught up to the back of Jason Martin. So James has got pace, hasn't he? And
yeah, no, sorry, I was definitely going to agree with you there. He's definitely got some pace. I didn't think he would actually catch Jason Martin that quickly. Thomas Hinge has now also put a lap on that car further down the field, and he's setting off after Sandman Clark.
Yeah, and one of the viewers was saying about Sandman there, his car's looking a bit beat up on the rear end, but I think we're going to see a lot of that now because they'll be out of their fast repairs, won't they? And there's quite a lot of bruised cars out there tonight.
Yeah, I was actually noticing that. It's good of that viewer to mention that, because I was actually looking at that, but I think he's actually had that damage for a couple of pace car periods now. And I'm not sure when he actually picked it up, but I've been noticing that. I think it's been there for a little while. It won't be helping with the way the car handles, obviously. So it's just going to be good to see if he can just maintain the line, which he's doing at the moment. And surprisingly, he's maintaining a pretty decent gap over Thomas Hinge.
Yeah, and the tyres are now starting to go off in all these cars, so as Sandman just clips the wall on exit there, and it was just a bit of a kiss, but he got away with it. But it's interesting with James Foster here, because if he can round up Jason Martin and get this lap back, he's going to be down 1 lap, okay? But then if a pace car comes out, you know, or a couple of pace cars in the next 35 laps, he could be back on the lead lap, and then it could get interesting.
It'll be very interesting, and to be perfectly honest, I think what we may find, looking at the way that some of these cars, they seem to be starting to struggle a little bit for rear-end grip. So I'm thinking that the next pace car period, you're going to get most of the field and probably all of the front runners pitting to get fresh tyres, and James Foster will be in the box seat, because he's actually got pace, he's obviously got good tyres, and he won't need to pit next time around.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So I wouldn't discount him yet, because if the pace cars fall his way, he's definitely shown he's got the pace, and if he can get back up the front, I think he's going to be someone to contend with. So no doubt Jason Martin would probably know this, and he'll probably want to keep James behind him.
Yeah, I think Jason will be fairly aware of that, as James Foster's just put a lap on Craig Lawless, and continues to pursue and run down Jason Martin to get that lap back.
Oh, it's an impressive drive by James, that's for sure, and he's got Jake Blackhall behind him, and Jake's not closing up on him. And then Thomas Hinds now, he's been dropped off the back of Sandman, running in third. We'll just go down and see if we've got any other battles here. We've got Bruce Ross in the 8. He's battling with the 77. I noticed with Bruce Ross's car, it's actually starting to get loose, as what you were saying probably 2 laps ago.
Yeah, the 67 car, I'm not sure who that is. That's Jason Fewens. He's actually going at the moment with Shannon, side by side with him with Shannon Mason, but they're actually a few spots apart. I don't know whether they're actually racing for position, because Shannon Mason's a lap down and Jason Fewens is 3 laps down. So Jason's obviously trying to get the laps back in that 67 truck.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's 3 laps down now, and it looks like we've had another couple of retirements here, folks. It looks like we've lost Jake Maloney, and he's parked his truck and walked away. Scotty Harris also has retired from this race. Well,
that's a bit of a shame, but they obviously had their reasons. Once again, it comes down to, Jason Fewens sideways there, coming towards the end of that lap.
Yeah, his truck, sorry folks, is looking a bit loose, isn't it? And it's had more than hits than Elvis at the moment.
Well, sadly for Jason, he's trying so hard to pull those laps back, but he's just being lapped again by Jason Martin, and they've both he and Shannon have James Foster to contend with, who's obviously got plenty of pay.
Yeah, we can see, as you said, James Foster down there. Oh, James Foster's just been hit, I think, and has he gone around?
I think he did it on his own. I think he just got loose on the low side, and but it looks like he might have regained it.
Yeah, it's allowed. We're just having a look here. Jake Blackhall was behind him. He was trying to get up on the inside of the 55, and we'll just have a look at this replay. Just having a look, it was on exit here. Yeah, he gassed it up pretty much, kept it off the wall, but oh boy, hang on to it. I'll tell you what, he had a bit of a tank slapper going on there.
Well, Jason Fewens is actually struggling a little bit, I think, with his tyres, because he's riding so close to that wall. He actually scraped it last time around and lost a heap of pace, and Jake Blackhall's taken advantage of that and put another lap on him. So not the best of nights for Jason Fewens either.
No, not at all. There's a few guys struggling out there tonight, and you can see now the track's rubbering up, and once again we see Jason Fewens there spinning it up. He's right up against the wall. You can just see how much he's struggling, because Sandman's closed right up on him, and he's about to make a move on the inside up here.
Well, just watching Edward Foster right at this moment, who's still motoring on, and he's got Craig Lawless a few lengths back. And I'm just taking a bit of a look to see who's actually where on track. And Craig Lawless is a lap down, so Edward's actually got the edge there.
Yeah, according to my telemetry, he still has not stopped. I'd like to believe that's the case, but, you know, like last week when we saw Norman doing this, I sort of wasn't quite sure if my telemetry is telling me the truth or not.
I haven't seen him go into the pits, so unless it's the quickest pit stop in NASCAR truck history, I certainly didn't see it.
I'm just having a look from the grandstand here, folks. We'll jump and have a look at our leader, but you can actually see the gap from Jason Martin back to Jake Blackhall. They're both in the same picture. Then we've got Stephen Clark behind him, Thomas Hims. They're all separated by about 5 car lengths at the moment, and of course poor Jason Fewens is still battling a truck that just does not want to behave itself tonight.
Full points to Jason. All he wants to do is finish this race, pick up some points in the series. I go through the same thing. It's just a determination, regardless of how far down you are. You know you can finish, you just want to get there and pick up points in the championship. It's no good just giving up if you're able to just continue to drive, and full points to him for that. But Edward Foster's moving up again, and we've still, Bernie, got 14 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, exactly right. And Ryan Colstead, he's the last person on that lead lap. And the other car, the number 1, is just about to put him down a lap.
Look, the biggest surprise to me tonight would have to be Roger Clark, who on a lap 109 is still sitting in, 13th position, I think?
Yeah, Roger's been sitting down in around that area all night, hasn't he? He hasn't been able to make way up further than, I think, 8th position.
I haven't seen Roger involved in any incidents or collateral damage in somebody else's incident. So how he's managed to be down that far, I'm not quite sure. Still on the lead lap, obviously, but it's one of those tracks, unfortunately, that if your tyres are not working and somebody else's are, then obviously you're going to be back a little bit. And I'm thinking that perhaps that's what's actually happened to Roger tonight. He seems to be driving a good race, but Edward's actually coming through at the moment, passing Roger, and wow, what a race.
Yeah, and Edward's still allegedly on original tyres, and I can't believe that would be the case. We've been running here, we've got 14 laps to go out of 125, and that truck of his is still turning in and behaving itself.
Bertie, I honestly think that we're not the only ones that are going to want to have a word to him after the race. The scrutineers are gathered around outside his garage already.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I saw them all heading down that way, so it could be interesting to see what they find. I reckon if he pulls out the line that he's got 4 perfectly matched tyres, I think they'll just shake their head.
Yeah, well, I think he's been waved away. I can see the clipboard waving towards the scrutineers by the team manager. Well, I don't want to talk to you now, we're busy running a race. So we'll sort it out afterward.
That's exactly right. And I saw the manager there put his headphones back on and stare straight at the track. He said something to Edward then, but I'm not sure what it was. I don't think it included ice cream.
No, I don't think it included ice cream. I think that whatever it was obviously something to do with their rubber supplier.
You can see the 8 of Bruce Ross here. He's having a good battle with James Zeitz and Steve Williams behind him in the 98. Haven't seen much of Steve, but he's sitting up there having a great run in 12th and clocking up the kilometres.
Well, that's it, yeah. Bruce and James, they're battling for 10th position at the moment, and with only 12 cars left on the lead lap, they'll be battling pretty hard. The last thing they're going to want to do is go down another lap, but the leaders are really just not letting up at this point. That front 5 or 6 still putting into it. I can't believe the pace that Edward still has on lap 117 when neither of us have actually seen him enter the pit.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And I tell you what, Jason Martin's now coming up to put a lap down on James Zeitz. He's done it now, but just ahead of him, James and Bruce, they were getting into each other side by side as Jason was starting to catch them. and he's split them now. But Jake Blackhall is also trying to get past the 98, and they're going too wide.
Well, Edward at the moment's coming up on Sam Ross, truck 22, who's actually currently sitting in 18th. He's 3 laps down, but he's not letting up either. He's still putting in a race, and that's exactly what he should be doing. But Edward has got the pace because he's closing the gap on him, and I'd say within a lap or two we're going to see Edward pass him as well.
Yeah, and we can see further down that 98, it's getting really, really loose, and he's into the wall. What's it going to do? It does not bring out the pace car, but he got into the 19, and he was actually sitting there for a bit, but he's got going. The one thing I did notice was Bruce Ross was banging panels with Jason Martin as Jason went through.
Yeah, that's a little bit strange. Bruce Ross sitting down in 10th, and if he's a lap down from Jason Martin, you've got to wonder why he didn't just simply give Jason a little bit of room.
Yeah, he just went down a lap. He's up into the wall now, looking pretty raggedy there as he got... Oh, it's just sliding. He's doing like a Speedway here. I know this track used to be dirt, but I don't think sliding these cars is going to help as he now goes towards the infield. And we're down to 3 laps remaining here, so let's have a look from the grandstand, folks. So you can see the gap. We've got Jason Martin, Jake Blackhall now right on his tail, folks. So the race is on here, Steve. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Jason or Jake?
I'm guessing Jason Martin will actually hold the position. Jake's a sensible driver. Unless there's a really obvious and easy opportunity, I don't think Jason's going to push it. He'll hold second place and take the points.
Yeah, because he's basically chasing down at the moment the competition, as I said before. Jake got back-to-back wins round 1 and 2. Jason back-to-back wins round 3 and 4, and it looks like Jason's about to make it a triple as we can see them now coming into the final corner here, final lap. The other cars get out of their way, let these guys race, and it looks like the win is going to definitely go, it does, to Jason Martin.
Well done to Jason, and Jake for second place as well. And Stephen the Sandman Clark is about to bring it home in third place.
Yeah, and the 19, it's sitting facing the wrong way down there, but he's decided that's where it's going to stay. But yeah, Sandman did an awesome job, didn't he? Coming home in third position.
Fantastic stuff. I'm pretty sure that's his first round for the series, and a fantastic performance behind the 2 guys who have been battling for the lead of this championship since round 1.
Yeah, and we'll be crossing to them very shortly. Of course, Jason's now doing his victory lap here at Martinsville. Well-deserved win there, that's for sure. And we'll be speaking to, hopefully, the top 3 very shortly.
That's going to be very interesting. Edward Foster still finished 5th place.
Yeah, without a stop. And I've noticed as soon as he stopped, the clipboards came out, and they're starting to inspect that car very, very closely.
Yeah, I think as soon as it stopped, some of the air actually came out of the tyres, and the truck was about an inch lower as well.
Yeah, and we can see now as Jason brings his car down to park next to Stephen Clark at the end of pit road, and we'll be crossing to them now for our post-race interview.
That's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to talk to them, but I really would like to send a shout out to Thomas Hinz, who also drove a fantastic race tonight and brought it home in 4th place.
Yeah, fantastic. So we'll cross now to Jason Martin and our race winner here. And Jason, well done, mate. It was an awesome race there. You had Jake just coming on the back of you, but you held out to make it a triple. Not sure if Jason can hear us.
Yeah, have you got to see Jason?
Yeah, mate, I can hear you.
Yeah, it was probably a bit hard over the noise of the car there, but fantastic racing, mate. And looked like you're under a lot of pressure there at the end.
Yeah, my tyres were absolute toast. I was having trouble braking. I was having trouble on exit. so I was lucky to hang on in the end.
Yeah, it got pretty close there. We saw your rubbing panels there with Bruce Ross. It looked like you had to get a bit forceful to get past him. And of course, he was having his own battle at the time.
Yeah, I saw him catching me real quick, and I just overdrove it, and it just wouldn't stop, and accidentally got into him a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll hand you over to Steve. And Steve, you got any questions here for Jason?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to congratulate you, Jake. Look, you've driven another fantastic race. I mean, it's a shame I couldn't be out there tonight, but I had an absolute blast, bird's eye view, and just thoroughly enjoyed the drive that you had on tonight. Did you find that the tyres went off fairly quickly, or did they seem to give you the good, a good bit of life for, say, 30 laps or so?
Yeah, probably after about 20 laps they were no good. I just didn't want to pit because I wanted to maintain track position.
Well, that's probably to be expected, considering the level of the competition out there tonight. I mean, a short track, there was a couple of people that pitted an extra couple of times, a couple of people that didn't. So obviously there were some differences in the way most people's tyres from truck to truck were behaving. And yeah, obviously you were saying the tyres were toast at the end there, but how far into the race, like the last 10 laps, 15 laps, was that when they started to really cause you to struggle a little bit and hold your position?
Yeah, the last 15 laps I was really struggling. It was just a matter of time before I was going to lose it and get into the wall or something, so I'm glad it ended when it did.
Well, it certainly makes things interesting at the top of the championship ladder now. I believe that's 3 wins to you and 2 to Jake Blackwell, and Jake came in obviously right behind you there tonight, so he's picked up a good fistful of points from second place.
Yep, I think it's going to be real close up the top at the moment.
Well, with what is it, Talladega we go to next week, so a high speed track, that's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. The short tracks really do sort out some of the finishes and the points more than the long tracks do. So it's going to be interesting to see how things change next week. You looking forward to the long track next week, Jason?
I never enjoy Talladega and Daytona, so not too sure about that race. I think we could see a new winner.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see who's actually got the goods on the night. Look, once again, mate, congratulations. Fantastic race. And I suppose we better move across and speak to them. Do you want to thank your sponsors or anybody?
I'd just like to thank RRTV for broadcasting the series and ANZCAR for putting on the series.
Yeah, well said, mate. RRTV, Bernie does a wonderful job with that. And ANZCAR run a fantastic series. So that's good stuff. And thanks very much for joining us, unless Bernie's got any further questions for you.
No, not at all. We'll continue on with our interview, and we can see Jake Blackwell standing over there having a chat with Sandman, so we'll mosey on over and have a chat with those guys. But thanks, Jason. Well done. Go and celebrate with your team, mate. So looking across at Victory Lane here, we've got Stephen Sandman Clark. So we might pull him aside and have a quick chat with him. What do you reckon?
Yep, we'll grab Sandman up here. I just want to get his impressions of how he felt that truck was feeling tonight and compared to what he other races last week or the week before.
No worries, I'll bring him in and you can start the interview. I'll just throw you in the deep end. Just fix up his microphone there. He should be all good for you now, Steve.
Sandman, how
G'day,
are you?
Boys? Very well, mate. How are you?
I'm not too shabby at all. I've just watched an incredibly good race at Martinsville and thoroughly enjoyed the drive from quite a few of you guys. Congratulations on third place and getting on the podium, mate. That was well done.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I was pretty excited about jumping back in the truck for the ANZCAR series. I had a chance at having a steer, and I thought, well, we'll give it our best shot. But unfortunately, sort of had a little bit of damage halfway through that race, and I think third was the only bit of chocolates I was going to get for tonight. I could see Jake was all over me, so I decided to let him go. But tell you what, the way it was turning out at the start of the race, I expected a caution a little bit later on, and I figured I'd fix my damage then. But the boys went green and turned on a good show.
Yeah, no, it was a great race. Fortunately, there weren't the number of cautions that I expected at a track like this. We did have a lot of green flag racing, and the damage to the back of your truck was actually noticeable enough that people were commenting on it on the live chat.
Yes, she was fairly cactus. The rear had damage, and the front had the left front had massive damage. So that was more of my concern. I didn't actually know about the rear damage, to be honest. But I could tell trying to get the nose of the truck turned in through these corners, I was really struggling. But I didn't have a chance to fix it, unfortunately. We went green towards the end, so I figured I'd save that fast repair and do it in the later stages. But it never turned out that way. So to actually walk away with a third, considering the the look of the hybrid racing simulation Chevy, I'll take that, I think.
Yeah, you take them where you can get them, mate, don't you?
Not wrong. And there was a class field too tonight too. You saw that Jason Martin put on a heck of a show. He's always a good steerer regardless of where we race at. And Jake really turned it on as well. So I knew I was going to have my work cut out for me tonight, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, no, look, it's fantastic racing. I was pretty happy to see a couple of the new faces that came in tonight. Yourself and Ryan. Look, it was just great to see a few of the fresh faces there, and a couple of guys who hadn't raced in the series before. So yeah, it was good to see, and there was some brilliant racing from some very experienced guys. I'm used to seeing you in a V8 supercar, that black and red thing.
Yeah, a little bit different from the 6-boost Holden Commodore, but V8 Scots is a totally different ball game, and it's nice to get back into the ovals. It's been a little while since I've done some oval track racing, but Hybrid Racer Simulations have jumped on board, and they're pretty keen to back me for oval track racing. So I'm keen to get back in it. I'm loving it.
Oh, that's great. Before I hand you back to Bernie, if he's got any questions, I just wanted to ask you, there was a couple of incidents there with down low. You were quite loose there, and you didn't bring out a flag. It was just a gentle nudge, I think, into one of the other front runners there. Was that just a case of the slipperiness on this particular track down low, or was it a tyre thing at the time where your tyres were getting old and worn out?
I know at the start I did probably abuse my tyres a little bit, so she was a little bit squirmy at the start of the race. I'm not sure who you might be talking about. I did have a little bit of contact with another driver. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, and I apologise fairly quickly, but I tried to make a move up the inside, and I don't know if he just sort of closed the door a little bit on me, and what happened is I actually bounced off the curb on the inside, and that sort of launched the truck, and that's where I got the damage at the front, and that's where I made contact with him, and he went round, I think. So I'm so sorry for that, and I apologise really quickly, but I think that's where I struggled, just the damage. But I did probably overheat him at the start of the race, but once I sort of got into a groove, the tyres actually weren't too bad, and I was actually surprised with the amount of damage that I had at the end of that run, that those tyres actually hung in there as well as they did.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at a few guys who had very long runs on tyres, and I'd be interested to know how solid the rubber was. Made a crack about it during that there's obviously no air in the tyres, they were solid. But look, I'll hand you back to Bernie. Congratulations, Stephen Clark, for third place in this round at Martinsville in the ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder Series. And I'll hand you back to Bernie for any questions he's got, and for you to maybe thank your sponsors, which you've just done, I suppose. So, yeah.
Cheers, Bill.
I don't know why you're handing Sandman back to me. You've asked him all the questions I had, but a good interview anyway. But I guess the main question, I was going to ask you about your tyres, but you've pretty much answered that. The other question was the traffic around here. We had 27 trucks around here tonight. Were you surprised at how well that racing went?
Mate, I was, and regardless of who's on the racetrack at the time, Martinsville is always a tough racetrack. You get traffic at places like this, and Bristol and Richmond and all the rest of it. But everyone did a really good job. I think everyone was just trying to find their feet in the early stages. I didn't obviously see much of the cautions and what happened and brought out yellows, but I'll tell you what, towards the end of that race, that green flag run, the guys were really understanding and given plenty of racing room, and I think that's why we went green towards the end, because everyone sort of respected each other towards the end, and there's some pretty good steerers up and down this field, so don't take that, anything away from the field, but it's typical Martinsville. We always get a little bit of carnage, we always get a bit of lap traffic, but that's why we keep coming back, because it's a challenge. If it was easy, everyone else would be doing it.
Oh, exactly right. No, I was really impressed with the standard of driving. I was saying before we went on air with Steve, I was saying we're going to get a lot of cautions, but no, the standard of driving was absolutely excellent, and it took me a while to work out who you were, because I'm not used to seeing you in the trucks.
It's been a while, mate. I've missed my truck racing, but I couldn't help myself. The ANZCAR boys have put together a great series, and we want to thank you guys for putting the broadcast together, because you guys add a little bit of flavour to this championship, and the boys that take part in this championship is a lot of fun, and I couldn't help but bring along the hybrid racing simulation Chevy to come and have a crack. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's awesome having you out here, and we look forward to catching you next week if you come back as well, Sandman. But anyway, that's enough from me. I can see Jake over there pacing. He wants us to go and have a chat with him next, so we'll let you go. But did you want to shout out to your sponsors, or have we pretty much done that?
I've plugged them. I'll give them another plug. Hybrid Racing Simulations. They've been fantastic support for my oval track racing, and Six Boost for letting me take part in this series and step away from Vought Scops for a little bit. So it's awesome. Thank you, guys, and thank you to everyone at RRTV.
No worries. We'll catch you next week, hopefully.
Cheers, mate. Look forward to it. Thanks, boys.
Yeah, Sandman went to the Alan Moffat School of plugging your sponsor, I think.
Yeah, it was good, isn't it? And that's the thing. When we interview these drivers, you can see the ones that have been rehearsing, and part of it is getting the sponsors out there, isn't it? And getting their airtime, basically. Oh,
yeah, look, absolutely, Bernie. The actual sponsors, Brad at HRS, Logitech, all these other companies who actually sponsor cars and teams in iRacing, they deserve the plug, because they've gone out there and they've made the deals, and they're supporting these race teams, and there's nothing wrong with giving them a plug as often as possible.
Yeah, exactly right. But speaking of our next drivers, we'll walk across here, folks, and have a quick chat with Jake Blackhall. He's over here standing next to his beautiful truck. We can't show it to you because the cameraman, he's decided he's going to go and have some dinner or something. But anyway, let's have a chat with Jake Blackhall. Hi, Jake. Welcome to the Combox, mate. Great driving. You were closing in there on Jason Martin, but you just didn't have enough tonight. Oh, hang on. Let's bring him up. Try again. Okay, we should have Jake now. Hey, Jake, welcome to the RRTV Combox, mate. We were watching that battle you had with Jason, and you looked like you were catching him, but you just didn't have enough to take the win tonight, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Bernie. Thank you. And just didn't have enough there at the end. It was coming down to the wire. I needed maybe another 5 more laps once I got to him, but it was a hard place to pass tonight. Even if I wanted to try and make a move, I was going to have to really be consistent to get the car underneath him before I tried anything, because I definitely wasn't going to bump him. I was just going to try and sit there and see if he made a mistake and get it that way. But top job to him. He drove an awesome race tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that line. We saw some guys, like Edward, as his tyres were going, he was running the mid line, but it looked like a lot of the guys were favouring that inside line. Was that the only effective line around this circuit today?
It's pretty much the quickest way around this track, Bernie. It's one of those things where you go to a 1.5 mile, we can venture maybe the middle groove, maybe the high line, when the track sort of wears in. But Martinsville, it's one of those places, it's a one-line track. You don't want to venture outside of it, because as soon as you do, you're in the marbles and you're going to be running high and wide, maybe in the fence. So sort of got to run the one line and hope someone maybe locks a brake and pinches the brake and runs a little bit deep, so that you can just get it down on the inside through the middle of the corner and then get the place that way. It's definitely one of the hardest places to race on a short track, I think.
Yeah, it's I think it's up there with Bristol myself, but this is the first time I've been to Martinsville, and I was very impressed with how everyone went. I did have another question for you, but it'll come back to my old brain in a minute. I'll hand you over to Steve while I try to rack what my question was.
Yeah, good day, Jake. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. How are you?
I'm not too shabby, mate. It's a bit different watching you from this perspective. Normally I'm in the field and sort of watching the back of it, or as you pass me or whatever, and making some room for you. But it was actually good to watch you from this perspective. And to be honest, I thought you drove a very sensible race tonight. There were obviously instances there where discretion was the better part of valour, and it seemed like you were sort of not trying to push it too hard. A couple of times there I noticed the rear would get out a little bit on you, so you had a little bit of issue with tyres tonight, did you?
Yeah, it's sort of in that middle to end part of the runs, and especially on that last run, the long green flag run there. The truck definitely wanted to get a little bit sideways, and you just had to manage your throttle on the exit of the corners. And it was sort of one of the things, just being patient here. It's all you can be, and even getting when you come down for a pit stop and no one else comes down with you or something like that, and you get shuffled to like 12th or 15th, I think it was, on that final caution, or second to last caution. You just got to manage it from there and not try and push too hard. You just got to sort of manage that, get the spots as they come, and then just work your way from there. But yeah, definitely short end to the middle, longer end of the run. Definitely rear started to go a little bit. Had to manage that throttle.
Yeah, Bernie and I actually had a couple of little ooh moments watching there, and the back sort of came out, and a couple of the spots of the track you were on the mid to high line, and the back came out, and I was thinking, well, it's a good thing he's not a bit closer to the wall, because that could have been disastrous. But it had enough wiggle room there that it started to slip out. You've managed to gather it back and just keep going with a very minimal loss of momentum. And that's what I mean. You seemed to drive a very sensible race tonight. You seemed to be aware of what was going on with the vehicle, and you knew when it was safe to push it and when it was safe to bide your time, be patient, wait for the opportunities to come.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it was all controlled sliding, I should say, coming off the corners. But it's just one of those things where you get used to knowing what the cars are going to do, and especially in this series, the field's just getting stronger each week. So you got to be on your game, and even though the rear was stepping out a little bit, you got to sort of push through that at the end of those runs. Otherwise, you're just going to worry about it too much, and you may lose more time than just trying to drive through it, sort of thing. So. It was definitely good though. The truck was actually really nice tonight. Struggled with the front a little bit, had to change the brake bias a lot more to what I usually would towards the end of the run, which was something that I've never had to do before, but definitely an experience in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, and to watch a lot of you guys, especially in an opportunity I've had like tonight, right? And I mean, I don't consider myself a bad sim racer, but at the same time, watching guys like you still pick things up. And what I seem to find is that further back in the field, sometimes we tend to overthink it and try a little bit too hard. And at the front of the field, you seem to know what is required to stay there, be there, and that the opportunity will come to catch up with the guy in front and close that gap. And I think with that is something that guys can pick up by thinking about it and not pushing too hard and just being aware of what's going on around them. And I think that's why we continue to see you guys, you and Jason, continually battling for this championship at the moment. And we've got guys like Stephen Clark, Thomas Hins, Edward Foster, right on your heels. And it's good to see.
Yeah, it's great to see. And it's one of those things, Steve, where and we've sort of spoken about it at ERT, and it's not just with myself, it's for a lot of the drivers. It's more a mental game. You got to come in here thinking that you can't overthink it, really. Like you said, you got to manage yourself a lot more than what you think, especially sitting in some of these cars for endurance races, or like tonight, 125 laps in a truck. That's still a long way, and you got to manage that mentally, because you're sitting here focusing on a little thing that could happen. Especially, I think it's next week we go to Dega, so focusing on where everyone is, and that mental game is so big. You got to not overthink it. You got to sit there, bide your time, wait, and figure it out. So it's more than about skill of driving, and it's definitely got a lot more mental game in any series that you drive, especially in sim racing.
Well, I think, yes, I think you bang on there. And mental awareness and patience are probably as important, if not more so, at a long track like Talladega as they are at a track like Martinsville or Iowa, because it's a longer run, whereas at the shorter tracks, you've got the traffic around you, so the concentration is on where you fit in next to that guy or around that guy, whereas at the longer tracks, it's more a case of it's a long way. I mean, it's a low 50s as far as lap time's concerned. So it's going from one extreme to the other, and you're going from a different awareness here to a completely different loneliness at tracks like Talladega. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Look, congratulations on the second place, mate. I'll hand you back to Bernie and give you a chance to thank your sponsorships, your sponsors, sorry. And look, congratulations on tonight. Second place again, up at the top of the tree there with Jason Martin, and still battling, and you've got a good fistful of points tonight. So the championship's getting very, very tight at the top.
Yeah, it is. Cheers, Steve.
Yeah, fantastic, Jake. I was about to say that about the points, where basically you took the first two. Now Jason has a triple win, and you've going to have to pull out another win next week. How confident are you about doing that?
Well, if it is Talladega, I do like the super speedways a fair bit. I've had a lot of success there previously in multiple categories, whether it's obviously the truck or the cup car. So quietly confident if it is Talladega. Obviously, it is still a pull your name out of the hat and hope you're there at the end sort of thing. You can't, if you get involved in an incident, it's sort of day done. So got to manage that and hopefully be up near the front where I can manage that. But if everything goes well, hopefully be up inside that top 5 towards the end of Talladega and in for a good shot.
Fantastic. I'll definitely be looking forward to that. But before we let you go, Jake, you better give a shout out to all the sponsors that helped get your truck here tonight.
Yeah, big shout out to Logitech G for all their support. Can't thank them enough. Asher Racing for their support as well, from sponsoring me and what I do and my BSRTC schedule that I have in the morning, which is going to be great fun in my Kia. Also, massive shout out to GTI, Joel Real Timing, as well as Night Ride Designs.
Fantastic. Well, once again, congratulations. Coming second tonight. A few more laps, I reckon, it would have been on, but it wasn't to be. But I'm definitely looking forward to see your ERT Logitech truck at Talladega next week.
Cheers, thanks Bernie, and also great job on the broadcast, guys. It's been a pleasure to watch back.
Fantastic. All right, mate. Catch ya.
See ya.
Okay, well, Steve, we'll have a mosey on here. We've got Thomas Hinds. He's decided to come over and have a bit of a chat. And Thomas came home in 4th position tonight, so we'll bring him up and have a quick chat with him.
Yep, sounds good, Bernie.
I'll just fix the thing. Okay, folks, we've got Thomas Hinds over here. Thomas came home in 4th position. Thomas, we normally see you out there in the V8 supercar. Tonight you're in the truck. How different is that compared to your supercar?
Yeah, well, hello everybody, yeah, it's very different. Obviously, ovals, V8s, a different sort of experience. I mean, I guess you could say the trucks are similar in that they don't have the highest amount of grip of the oval cars, so I guess there's that similarity. They're quite heavy beasts, and the V8s are very similar in that regard, so I guess maybe you could say they're actually more similar in a way now I think about it. I was just slightly thinking about it more now. It's like there's the oval version of the V8s, maybe you could almost say. So and they're good fun though. Good fun. They always make for some great racing, and they did tonight. I mean, we had a fair few cautions early on, but it was a real nice green flag run to the end there in the latter stages. That was a lot of fun to bring it home like that.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a lot of fun, and I was really impressed tonight with your driving. You were in the top 5 pretty much most of the night, and rubbing shoulders there with Sandman for a bit of it. And were you surprised at how well you took to the trucks tonight?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't drive them too much. I've done dabble. I sort of more dabble in oval than do it very consistently, so I don't have the sort of experience that probably some others do. So no, yeah, I was a bit surprised to be up there with those guys. When I saw in quali, in practice, when I was pumped out a couple of laps that were pretty close to them, I thought, oh, gee, okay, I might actually have a chance of being up there, and it was the case. I mean, I showed at Iowa I can sort of be up there as well, but it was good to be up towards the front on a track like Martinsville. It's obviously a very unique circuit to oval racing with the way it is, so very delicate to the circuit, I think, as well. So no, it was really, a little bit surprising. I didn't think I'd be up in the top 5. I was hoping for top 10. That would have been the sort of initial goal, but yeah, to be actually up there on top 5 on merit was really good. It's a shame I didn't get to the podium, but Sam, man, just had my measure in that last green flag run. I was kind of matching him, but not quite able to overhaul him. But I'll definitely, I mean, fourth, I think it was. I'm pretty sure I finished where I started. Yeah, I did. So I'll take that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to hand you over now to Steve Hoppert here, and of course Steve's missing his racing tonight, but you can calm him down a bit, Thomas.
Will do.
Yeah, like you look a lot cooler than I do at the moment, Thomas. 4th place, you must be pretty pleased with that. So congrats on that. And I just want to reiterate what Bernie said, mate. Like, fantastic drive. We saw you in the middle of it, just about all night. Good position and just driving a nice, clean race.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean that is a good point as well, in that it's good note that you generally can tell the guys who have the good races overall because their truck's pretty much completely clean. I mean, I think I didn't have a scratch on it. Had one or two little bumps. That was it, pretty much throughout the race. So other than that, there was no incidents at all, which was good. And obviously, there was a couple of wrecks around me that I managed to avoid, which was, probably a little bit luck involved as always with those kind of things. It's always a bit lucky where you are for when those wrecks start happening, but managed to be in the right place so I could dodge them without any damage. And yeah, just kept it clean and consistent. The car felt real nice, setup was real cool. Really good to me anyway. It was pretty good fun, I thought, at the end, getting a little bit loose and having to juggle a little bit on the exit of the corners was a good bit of fun. So and the traffic was well behaved as well, which is handy. So no, it was just really good fun, and I'm glad. As I said, I'm still a little bit surprised. I guess I was up, matching the likes of Blackhall and those kind of guys in these trucks, because I know I'm not the slowest in these trucks, but I didn't think I was that fast in these trucks. So yeah, it's a little bit of a oh geez sort of moment for me.
Well, to be honest, mate, you shouldn't have really been that surprised. I mean, it's pleasing, and you always look back at it and you go, well, that was great. I'm glad I finished where I did. But to be honest, you finished where you started.
Yeah. I was just glad to have that consistency, that nice evened up tally 4-4. And good to be getting the GoPro up there as well. I'm always, as Sean watches this back, you'd know that anything with GoPro I always straight away run. That's just unfortunately how it is. Something for me with GoPro's blue and their logo is just really appealing to me in the liveries. So whenever I see a GoPro livery, I just go, I have to run this. Sorry, Sean, I just have to. There's no choice in this. So when I saw this is a while back, I saw this the Chevy GoPro skin. I just thought, wow, I mean, there's my skin sorted forever for the Chevy. So it's good to have a good run. Good to give it another run again, because I'm always happy to give it a run. And good to just run the trucks in a real nice competitive and clean field as well is always a good thing, because obviously, trucks are going to trucks, or trucksin, I guess it is probably the term that's thrown around a lot, because they can be a little bit dodgy sometimes. But, when you get a good bunch of guys as we showed tonight, you can have some really fantastic racing.
Fantastic, Thomas. I would love to chat with you longer, but we've got to make our way up to Edward Foster now and find out his secret. But before we let you go, Thomas, do you want to give a shout out to your sponsors?
Yeah, well, I'll give a shout out to obviously the usual Carney, Race Centre and GTI, the main 3 sponsors. They will be the main ones now because of the V8 I'm actually changed livery, which obviously tomorrow for AOSC you'll see. So if you want to see the new liveries I'm running, lovely little segue there, I'm quite proud of that. Make sure you're watching AOSC tomorrow night. But it's one of our older ones, but I've just kind of jerry-rigged it and had it personalised a little bit, so I'm quite happy with it. But those 3 guys, the main 3 sponsors we have, thanks to them. And as always, thanks to the team for being just awesome as always. And look forward to the next race at Talladega. So something completely different.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But anyway, Thomas, thanks for popping in. Great race tonight, and we look forward to catching up with you tomorrow night during the AOSC.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernie, and thanks for the broadcast, guys, as always.
No worries, mate. See you later. Thank you.
Yeah, so now we're going to have a bit of a walk up here, and if we can get past all these blokes in the white coats and clipboard, we might be able to have a chat with Edward and find out what his secret was as far as those 4 black donuts were.
It'll be very interesting to see what Mr. Foster's got to say about that. I'm sure a lot of people are very interested in the answer.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. We'll just get past all these guys with the clipboards. Edward, can we pull you away for one moment and have a bit of a post-race chat with you?
Oh, absolutely. Never say no to RRTV, mate. You know that.
Yeah, well, the question we have, it's the elephant in the room. I don't know if either me and Steve are so darn old we just didn't notice, but the question is, it looks like you didn't come into the pits all night.
I did not.
Man, oh man, and that's why all these clipboard guys are around, because you sort of got the attention of them a little bit. So what was your secret? Did you, can you tell us what your secret was, or is it something you just don't want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I don't think anyone has made something out of nothing that well since MacGyver, to be perfectly honest. Like, in practice, no pace at all. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to struggle here. Qualifying was worse. And then when the race came around, I thought to myself, okay, well, I've got to gain sort of track position. I can't overtake anyone. I'm too slow. So when the first caution came out, I didn't pit. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm up in 5th or 6th place here. And as the race went on and the caution started to go, I was sort of watching my fuel and I was saving it under each caution, clutching under each caution and things like that. And just keeping an eye on the fuel load. I'm starting to think, I reckon I can make this here. And then obviously I had guys behind me who were on much fresher tyres but weren't really making much of an impression. So then I started adding it up and thinking, I reckon I can make the end. And yeah, I did, P5. Who would have thought?
Yeah, well, your pit manager there had a bit of... he was a bit busy there. At one point, the guys with those clipboards came past and he just said, I'm sorry, we've got a race to win here, come back later. But did he say anything to you about that at the point of your tyres? Did he leave it up to you to decide, or was this a team effort to keep you out there?
Call it a virtual team effort if you like.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I got Steve Hoppett next to me, and I'm sure he's got some very probing questions for you.
How are you, Steve?
I'm not bad. I'm still laughing about the MacGyver reference, to be honest. Look, that was just a great drive, mate, honestly. We were just constantly, we're just going, well, he's got to be pitting soon, surely. I made a reference about the tyres being solid rubber and no air in them a couple of times because, unbelievable stuff. Great drive, and to pull it in 5th place on around here without fresh tyres, just fantastic stuff, mate. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It was it was an adventure there at the end. Certainly didn't have a whole lot of turn-in left. There were some lapped guys that were trying to let me through, and I'm thinking to myself, don't make me do it down the inside because I can barely turn tight enough. So, yeah, got there in the end, though.
Well, look, mate, it must be a really special night for you because you actually finished in front of James.
Oh, don't say it as if it's that rare an occasion, Steve.
I know you two have a little bit of a side battle going. And we were enjoying the battle on track for quite some time. They're both on the same lap, running nose to tail with no more than a couple of truck lengths between you. And it was fantastic. We thought it was going to be on for young and old as the race went on. It was just unfortunate Edward got involved in a bit of an incident later on and had a long pit stop. But look, mate, the driving standard of the night we thought was pretty darn good, actually, considering it's a short track.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I expected probably a couple more cautions than there actually were. There was a bit of a slow burner in terms of the race. Obviously getting that long green run at the end. Real shame for James because he was right up behind me. He was on fresher tyres than everybody in front, and he had the pace on everyone behind him. So it really looked as though his strategy was going to work out really well. And I saw him behind me, and I sort of almost made the decision that if I knew he was on fresher tyres, and I was probably going to let him go and have a crack at the leaders if he got too close up behind me. And unfortunately, we never got to find out because he got tagged. I think the 55 got into Maloney, I think, who took him out, which was disappointing for him.
Yeah, there was a couple of minor things there that were really, like, just the simple little things that go wrong sometimes in a race on a short track. We did think the driving standard was better. We both expected, Bernie and I, that there would be more safety car, pace car periods. And I'm doing it. I've been sitting in here too long with Bernie, and I'm calling them a safety car now. But yeah, look, it was a great drive by just about everybody in the field. Obviously, you're going to get a couple of little things, but I actually was still thinking back to Iowa when we came here, and it didn't eventuate that way. Iowa, I think we had 9 pace car periods, and I think we only had, about 3 or 4 here. So, yeah, that just shows the standard of the driving from everybody involved.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think if one of the tracks was going to replicate Iowa, and it was something we were all a bit concerned about, it was going to be Martinsville. You know, it hasn't got a lot of banking. It's very difficult to pass, and people get frustrated and they try to lunge in under brakes, especially guys who've got more of a road racing background generally try the late braking move. But yeah, after everyone sort of settled down, we got that really long green flag run at the end, and yeah, I thought it was really good. And especially even in the early stages when you had that big 4-truck battle between I think Martin, Sandman, Blackhall, I think there's somebody else up there as well. You know, that was Maloney, I think it was. And they were going at it. It's the kind of racing that you get from short tracks. You know, if you can get those green flag runs in, you get that really good, exciting door handle to door handle racing that people love this style of racing for.
Yeah, well, that's it. And Thomas Hinds, Dave Douglas, Matthew Clowett, and Darren O'Brien, they were right up in the middle of it. We ended up with 8 cars still on the lead lap. So yeah, it was just fantastic from everybody concerned, and the guys who managed, unfortunately, to fall a lap or 2 down. I thought the driving from them was fantastic. They just wanted to run their own race, make plenty of room for the front half a dozen to just do what they had to do. So yeah.
Yeah, except for Dan Stevens, who was a couple of laps down and managed to shove me out wide and cost me a couple of spots. I was 3rd there for a while, so cheers, Daniel. But yeah, no, on the whole, very good. I agree.
Oh, sorry, mate, I missed that one.
Fantastic. Anyway, Edward, we're going to keep on pushing on here as we look at the replay, but did you want to give a shout out to anyone for tonight to get your truck up into 5th position?
I'll just shout out to RRTV, providing my paint job, providing the broadcast so the world can see the paint job. What more could you want? And also APCS for supporting ANZCAR as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, anyway, mate, we're off to Talladega next week. I'll let you go and work out how you can get rid of all those clipboard people. In fact, I think I can see your team there telling them to go away now. So you should be pretty much safe to go back to your truck, pack it up and head off to Talladega.
I won't be there, guys. I'm going to be away. But I hope it's going to be a good race.
Okay, no worries. It even sounds even more suspicious now. Anyway, Edward, thanks, mate. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you, boys.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, no, a great run by all involved, Bernie, and it's been a fantastic night. I personally, as we're going to wrap things up shortly, would like to thank you and say what a fantastic job that you do with RRTV. And thanks very much for having me in the commentary box. It's been fantastic. The only alternative I would have had tonight was to sit and watch the stream, which would have been great, but it's been even better being part of it.
Yeah, and we'll give a shout out to Ryan Shelton. He normally joins us tonight here, or last week. Steve, he did volunteer, but I told him you were up here with me, so he's relaxing watching it on his TV. But Ryan will be back with me next week at Talladega, and I'm sure he's going to enjoy that. But before we go, Steve, we've really got to go through the results so everyone can see where their favourite driver finished, because we haven't done that yet. So let's quickly go through that. So Jason Martin tonight, folks, takes a win. A triple win for him in a row. Jake Blackhall up 3 positions to come home in 2nd. Steve Clark, Sandman Clark that is, comes home in 3rd. Thomas Hinds, great drive, coming home in 4th position. Edward Foster up 10 positions. Biggest mover award so far, and he did not even pit. So I don't know how the heck he did that, but he did, and it worked for him. He come home in 5th position. Dave Douglas moved up 4 spots to come home in 6th. Matthew Clote, he comes home in 7th position, followed by Darren O'Brien, who also moved up 9 positions to finish in 8th. Riley Curtis in the number 93 comes home in 9th, followed by Roger Clark in 10th. Ryan Kolstad, he finishes in 11th. 12th was Stephen Williams. Home in 13th was Darren Bond, followed by James Zeitz. Then Craig Lawless, he comes home in 15th. James Foster finished in 16th position. Pretty rough night there for James. Sam Ross finished behind him. 17th, 18th was Daniel Stevens. Bruce Ross 19th. 20th, Jason Fewens. Norman Clark, he didn't have much of a run tonight. Well, he did, but he didn't have a good night, but finished 21st. 22nd was Shannon Mason. Scotty Harris finished in 23rd. Jake Maloney retired and was classified in 24th. And our other retirements was Jason Resson, Matt Stratford, and of course also Scotty Harris. So there you go, Steve, the full results of tonight's race.
Yeah, there was some movers and shakers in amongst that lot, and obviously, as we predicted, I think we picked it pretty much spot on with the 3 or 4 guys we mentioned that we should have kept an eye on. Dave Douglas, Edward Foster, and a couple of the other guys there that we called at the start, and I think none of them actually disappointed.
No, they definitely didn't, and the biggest mover was Edward Foster, but the surprise for me was he somehow managed to get 125 laps on those tyres and remain competitive. So that is a massive achievement. I think probably drive of the night, I would say, as far as strategy goes and the result. So my hat's off to Edward Foster.
Yeah, look, he referred to MacGyver, but I got a feeling he should have been thinking more about Harry Potter, because it was just magical the way he did 125 laps at this place on one set of tyres, and of course fuel too. I mean, it's not like he pitted and just got fuel. I mean, he didn't pit at all. And so just amazing stuff that he managed to do that and brought it home 5th. He didn't just finish; he finished 5th place on the lead lap.
Exactly right, and he was competitive while he was in 5th, and it wasn't like he was going backwards or anything. He was holding his own out there and running as fast as the other guys who had fresher tyres on him. So I don't know how he did it, Steve, but I think a lot of teams are going to take notice of this tonight.
Oh, look, he threatened for a podium towards the end there pretty closely. I mean, with about 20 laps to go, he was actually in, 3rd place or something, and still looking strong and with plenty of pace. So, yeah, he definitely deserved to finish where he did and pulled off a great performance right behind Stephen Clark and Thomas Hinds, who drove fantastic races, and the 2 guys ahead of them that have dominated the series to this point. Fantastic stuff to ANZCAR. Once again, another well-run round of this championship.
Absolutely, and looking at the week ahead, folks, on RRTV, we're back again tomorrow night, 9:15pm GMT plus 11. If you're joining us on iRacing Live, you can check your local guides. It will be listed there, and it's going to be on AOSC. We're going to Snetterton for a 60-60 race, so that's going to be really good. Last week we had a 60-60 race, and we had 53 V8 supercars attend that. We're expecting a similar turnout tonight, and at a track that not a lot of guys have raced at, because it's a pretty new track. It's going to be interesting. Then I'll have Bailey Hall with me for that. Then Saturday night, Alex McKellar and myself will be back to call the iRacing's World's Fastest Gamer. Round 4 Interlagos, that's a final round. We'll go through who looks like they're going to get the invite to the World's Fastest Gamer finals, and it's really going to be interesting to see who gets that. But that will be on 8pm GMT plus 11 on Saturday night. Then Sunday night we finish the week with the Australasian Super Skips. They are back on RRTV. Round 2, Road Atlanta, and that starts 8:45pm GMT plus 11.
Great stuff. There's some fantastic stuff and some great racing coming up on RRTV. Bernie. So I don't know how you keep up with it all, to be honest.
Oh, I just love doing it. So it's easy when you enjoy what you do, but yeah, some really good stuff, and hopefully the viewers will join us on that. But anyway, folks, it's that time of the night, and before we go, personally, I'd like to thank Steve Hoppett. Steve, mate, it was awesome having you up here, and you're welcome to come up anytime you like.
Mate, thank you very much. I just hope I wasn't too much over the top and came across as too much of a tosser. But look, I was just excited. I was enjoying the racing, and it was great racing to see. And look, yeah, another great race broadcast by RRTV. And I'm hoping for the opportunity to do it in a few weeks' time at the end of the month. Waiting to see what happens with the charity event, which I've opted to actually sit in the box with you. So hopefully we'll get the chance to do that again. So thanks very much to you, and continue the good work, mate.
Yeah, no worries. And of course, folks, that's a Tristo 300 that we will be covering later on in the year. But anyway, folks, it's that time of the night when we say good night to you. On behalf of Steve Hoppett, I'm Bernie Weemers, and I'd like to personally thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight, whether it was on iRacing Live or YouTube. We sincerely hope you did enjoy tonight's coverage, and hopefully we'll have your company again tomorrow night for the V8 Supercars at Snetterton. But if we don't, have a fantastic Friday and a safe weekend, and we look forward to your company again very shortly on RRTV. But until then, folks, I'll say good night.
Same bat time, same bat channel next week. See you, Bernie.